Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the People on the Go Lunch and Learn webinar. My name is Melissa Sweat, Customer Relationship and Community Manager at People on the Go, and I'll be moderating our webinar today. Before we start, let's just do a quick check to make sure that you can hear me just fine and see the screen. Go ahead and locate the questions panel and go to webinar and just type in a brief note there, a hi, hello, and okay, and all systems go, and that'll confirm that everything's good on the tech side. Thank you so much, Pat, Rochelle, Margarita, Martha, Anna. Thank you all so much. By the way, if you're needing assistance, the number to call is on the screen, 1-800-263-6317. We will also be posting the recording in our Accomplishing More with Less groups on Facebook and LinkedIn. So if you miss anything, you can find it there. We bring these webinars to you at People on the Go because our focus is productivity and leadership in the workplace, and you're in the right place to learn more about leadership today. We have an exciting prize for you on the subject of leadership and productivity. Time for Leadership by our founder and CEO, Pierre Kawand. We'll be giving away one copy of this book today, and I'll have more information for you on how to be entered to win this prize. And that'll be coming toward the end of the session, so stay tuned. Our session today is Compassionate Leadership. When the Dalai Lama and brain scientists agree on something, you want to listen. And I have with me Nancy Marmolejo, who I'll introduce now, and then I'll pass it on over to her. Nancy Marmolejo teaches entrepreneurs, leaders, and teams how to tap into their unique genius and use it to lead, communicate, and create more powerfully. Her top-rated podcast, Itenko, Lessons for the Leading Edge, invites listeners to move from their usual way of doing things and onto their leading edge. Since 2003, Nancy's business consulting has helped clients from around the world communicate more clearly, improve productivity, and develop compassionate leadership skills. She's won numerous awards for her business and has been featured in Smart Money, Redbook, Latina Magazine, the Orange County Register, Univision, NPR, and many more. Nancy has also contributed to many books, including 365 Days of Gratitude, The Twitter Handbook, The Zen of Marketing, and Nancy lives in the San Francisco Bay Area. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and transfer over to Nancy now. And this transition will take just a moment here.
All righty. Hi, it's Nancy. Can you see my screen, Melissa? Did I do this right?
Yes, looks great, Nancy. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, hi, everybody. It's great to be here. I'm Nancy Marmolejo, and thank you, Melissa, for that great introduction. And Melissa gets a big gold star for saying my last name correctly. That's fabulous of you. Thank you so much. Yeah, today's topic is about compassionate leadership, and I really look forward to sharing this presentation with you. We don't have a ton of time, so I'm definitely going to give you a place where you can get some more resources and also give you some of my contact information if you want to connect on LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, just about anywhere and everywhere. And I say in the title that when the Dalai Lama and brain scientists agree on something, you want to listen. So you'll definitely get some perspectives from the world of spirituality as well as the world of science. When I was a little girl, I'll never forget this time I saw this stray dog and it was running along the street in an absolute panic, and it was approaching a freeway on-ramp. The dog, it was disoriented, fearful, and just panicking, running around and running around crazy. And for me as a small child, this was so traumatic for me to see because I knew that once the dog got up that freeway ramp, its chances were not going to be good. And I was crying in the car, tapping my little hand on the glass window, and I'm yelling, "Doggy, doggy, that doggy needs help." And my mom was driving, I don't know, the radio was on or something, but she was paying attention to the road. She wasn't paying attention to me. And I was just so distraught. I was imagining a little girl, just like myself, crying herself to sleep because she didn't have her dog with her. And then suddenly this car pulled over. And this good Samaritan got out and approached the frightened dog and managed to rescue it from the side of the road. And at that very moment in time, all of that sadness and all of that trauma just flipped to elated joy. Every fiber of my being was so happy. And it was for a couple of reasons. First of all, the dog was going to be okay. And second of all, I felt this immense gratitude for the kindness of these rescuers. I witnessed compassion that day. And it shaped my beliefs in the world that we are inherently good and that doing good is a part of our DNA. Now, the word compassion, people are always asking, well, what exactly is compassion? And empathy always seems to come up. So I thought I'd just give you a little breakdown beforehand in the most simplest way possible. When I think about empathy, empathy is really about being able to feel what it's like to be another person. You know, I kind of being in another person's shoes. I can imagine what it's like to be in your shoes. And the difference between empathy and compassion is that compassion takes that empathy. I can imagine what it's like to be in your shoes. And I want to do something to help. And that comes across in many, many ways. I saw this on social media recently. And this was such a beautiful example of what compassion really looks like. It has that action piece. There was a tennis match, and Rafael Nadal was playing. And there was this little girl out in the audience who was crying because she and her mother had gotten separated. And this little girl was crying and she couldn't find her mother. And Rafael stopped in the middle of the tennis game and paused so that this little girl could connect with her mother. He was able to, in that moment, understand what it must have felt like for the little girl, for the mom, and his simple act of pausing allowed those two to reunite. And that was a beautiful public example of empathy, of compassion in action. The Dalai Lama
Nancy, so
says,
sorry to interrupt real quick, but I just wanted to see. Looks like the slides aren't turning. I just wanted to check on that on your end to see if it was just my screen or if they're actually turning. It looks like we're still on the title slide here.
oh, I'm on the Dalai Lama slide. So, oh, it says people can see a paused version of my screen. I am so sorry.
Oh no, that's okay. Okay, great.
Okay,
Yeah,
you know what?
now
Okay, I apologize for that. I didn't realize that until right this moment. So let me go back. It's just so if you can see the dog. I mean, you got to see the dog. That was
there's
the
the
little.
dog.
There's the dog. I'm sorry, everybody. You know, and I wanted to give you a visual of what compassion, empathy worked out. Fortunately, everybody has a handout, and so that can work out.
Great.
And this was where I saw the article. So now here we are back on there. Thank you so much, Melissa. I didn't realize that it was paused on that screen. The Dalai Lama said, if you want others to be happy, practice compassion. And if you want to be happy, practice compassion. You know, religions and spiritual practices, they've taught compassion for centuries. And what's interesting is how mindfulness and meditation practices are growing in popularity. They're entering the mainstream. And at the same time, there's so much going on in brain studies. There was this brain imaging study by the National Institutes for Health, and this was great. It showed that the pleasure centers of the brain, which are those same ones that light up for things like sex and money and chocolate, they are activated by compassion. So in other words, we feel pleasure when we do good and we observe other people doing good. Like, you know, if you see somebody helping someone else or giving to charity, children such as myself, when I saw the stray dog being rescued, respond when they see good being done for others. So what's interesting is that we are wired to respond positively to compassion. It helps us in more ways than just feeling good, too. It helps us create healthier, happier, more productive workplaces. And there's some great resources that you can check out, especially online. You can just go to these websites for the Greater Good Science Center, which is based out of UC Berkeley. There's also the Center for Compassion and Altruism, based out of Stanford. They've got some fantastic articles. There's scientific research that's being done in the areas of compassion, compassionate leadership, empathy. Lots of great information there if you want to do some follow-up. Compassionate leadership stands on the premise of moving from me to we. You move from the self to others. That I'm only in it for myself mindset isn't what's needed now to create a more peaceful, productive workplace. And what's interesting is I see how having a stronger sense of self-awareness and practices that you have as an individual to support self-awareness make a huge difference. It's not one of those things where somebody sends you a memo and says, be compassionate. You really have to tap into that part of your DNA that veers towards being compassionate. So I want to go over some of the bigger benefits of why compassionate leadership and compassion in the workplace are so important. There's so many benefits to it, and there have been so many studies. It's really fascinating. In 2012, there was a study by BMC Public Health, and it shows that employee stress levels decrease when they feel more bonded. And you think about what it means to be bonded to another person. You know them, you care for them. It also helps to foster stronger relationships and communication. When people in a workplace are encouraged to develop friendships, they have deeper levels of understanding. And when you have those deeper levels of understanding, you're more likely to feel compassion for the people in your immediate workplace. Higher employee retention has been linked to compassionate leadership and open compassion in the workplace. That's where you're feeling appreciated, when you're feeling part of something bigger than the job, when you're in a positive work environment and you're in a positive company culture, it makes you want to stay there. You feel good being there. You don't feel like everyone's out after your neck. And fascinating is that the compassionate workplace has less sick days. There was a study published by the Academy of Management, and it shows that compassion can actually lower blood pressure, decrease heart rate, and all of these things contribute to the body being stronger and more resilient. And what's so awesome is that compassion replicates itself. A study published by the National Academy of Sciences shows how cooperative behavior cascades to others around us. It's contagious. And when you raise the compassion bar, others follow suit. It becomes the new normal. And here's something I want to just address, a concern that people get, and they think, well, is that going to open up the door to everyone being taken advantage of? All we're going to do is just be softies for everyone and no one will be held accountable. You can be accountable and results-driven and compassionate. The Australian School of Business Leadership study polled 5,600 participants from 77 different organizations, and those leaders that were identified as compassionate consistently boosted employee productivity, morale, and profitability. And what's really interesting is people who are in the middle management or in the lower management levels, people really in the day-to-day trenches with everyone, they make a bigger impact, more than the CEO, by having a compassionate leadership style. Now, we don't have enough time to take you through a whole huge workshop, but I want to give you a cheat sheet on compassionate leadership. And if you can remember just these 3 things, this will be a great start for you. Okay, so there's 3 things, and I'm going to go into each one in a little bit of detail, but the first one is seeing the big picture. The second one is being able to understand feelings, that emotional intelligence piece. And the third is going from the me to the we mindset. So if you're taking notes or if you've downloaded the handouts that go with this presentation, this particular slide, this is your cheat sheet. So, print that one out, put it somewhere, and remind yourself if you can focus on these three things on a daily basis, then you will be working on your compassionate leadership skills. The first one, seeing the big picture, is being globally aware of what's going on in your environment, being aware of situations, of consequences, of the impact that things have on individuals, on groups, on departments. You basically don't want to have your head buried in the sand. So how do you do this? You stay informed. You don't isolate. You observe before you react. You safeguard yourself from going into a place of denial and just being really truthful, saying, okay, do I know everything that's going on in a very sensitive state of awareness, not from a place of fear and worry. And the second piece, understanding feelings, this is where development of your skills, of your self-awareness, of your interpersonal abilities comes in. So let's say you saw this woman, she's sitting at her laptop, she's got her head in her hands, and you're going to go up and say something. Okay, so what are you going to do? I'll give you a couple of multiple choices. Number one, you can ignore her, like, whatever, having a bad day, and then you just keep walking. Number two, let's say you make a joke, like, hey, what happened? Lose the lottery again? Just like wanting to sidetrack any kind of connection by immediately making a joke and wiping it away. Or maybe you're uncomfortable with the fact that she's feeling an emotion, so you want to instantly cheer her up so nobody has to really deal with it. You say, hey, wipe that frown off your face, get happy, which actually is a form of denial. It's denying that person the right to feel their feelings. Or you can say something like, hey, it looks like something's frustrating you. So observing something and seeing somebody and understanding, like, I wonder what feeling that person is feeling. So that's the first part. That's the empathy part. And then bringing action into empathy, making it compassion, is asking that question. It looks like something's frustrating you. That simple question is a form of compassionate leadership. There are two really great skill builders to develop this. And the first one is being able to ask questions like that, just an open-ended question, an observational question, generally not a yes or no question. And also listening, building up your listening skills, being able to allow another person to communicate and to share, where you hold the space for them and you listen, and you're not trying to fix them in the first 30 seconds. I'm going to give you guys a resource today, a couple listening exercises. I'll give you a link where you can go and download those. Listening exercises help you get out of yourself and focus on the needs and the feelings of others. And when you do that, you cultivate your compassion skills. Okay, it's an all-around benefit. Now, there are also other things that you can do, such as mindfulness, meditation, and those are wonderful for grounding you personally. But when it comes to interpersonal things, and compassion is a very interpersonal thing, interactive, I would say focus on listening as one of your first areas to develop. And the third component of compassionate leadership is moving from that me to that we mindset. Knowing that we're all in this together and feeling like you're part of something bigger than ourselves. And when you're in that place of feeling connected to something bigger than ourselves, it elevates people to be their best. It strengthens the workplace, it strengthens relationships, and it keeps people on board with the company vision. It really creates positive change. When you think about it, when you know that you're in it together, there's a feeling of accomplishment, there's a feeling of, we can do this. Brain scientists who've researched human behavior note that the evolutionary need for humans is to stay together for survival. And you think about it, our offspring, our babies, are very, very vulnerable. They don't get up and walk and feed themselves the first day. They need protecting. And so if you think about from an evolutionary standpoint, if we are compassionate with one another, the person we're being compassionate with is less likely to harm our offspring. It's the survival of our species. So compassion is this natural human trait that is wired in our DNA, literally, and it can take us to our next phase of greatness in business, in our relationships, in our interpersonal relationships, and in the world all around us. And so as you continue on your journey today, check in with yourself and ask yourself, how can my words, how can my thoughts, and how can my actions be more aligned with this place of compassion? I'd like to give you a couple of resources. I've created a compassionate leadership toolkit for you, and you can go to my website. It's talentandgenius.com/compassion. There are a couple of listening exercises, and you can give those a try. There are 3 that I really love, and so I've got a blog post explaining those, as well as a podcast. I have interviews with 2 authors who've both written books about asking powerful questions, and these are short interviews where they give you the real gist of what it is that they're talking about. This ability to ask powerful questions is an instant compassion builder. I highly recommend it. And there's also some leadership development tips and some bonus audios and resources for you. So go to talentandgenius.com/compassion. There's a list you can sign up for if you want to stay in touch with me. There's some other links if you want to contact me directly for coaching, for trainings, or anything like that. There's a contact tab on my website, and I happily invite you to contact me. And last but not least, here are a couple of other contact points. There's my direct email up top, nancy@talentgenius.com. And if you are a social media person, those are my various social media handles. If you've downloaded the handout, you can just get those from the handout, or if you want to copy them right from the screen and send me a message, I'd be very happy to stay in touch with you. So that concludes it, Melissa.
Thank you so much, Nancy, and thank you all again for joining us. I'm going to take control of the screen here, and I have a few closing slides, and then we'll get into our Q&A, and we have some very important announcements. I went ahead and shared that link to Nancy's site, talentandgenius.com/compassion in the chat panel, so you now have that, a nice handy link for you. Once again, if you'd like to be in touch with Nancy, here's some for contact information, and again, that's also provided on the handout. Just a few reminders, and then we'll get into the Q&A. By the way, if you'd like to start asking some questions, please go ahead and start to do that now, and we'll get to them in just a moment. Once more, today's prize for attending today is the Time for Leadership book by our founder, Pierre Kawand. The way to enter to receive this book, we're going to give away 1 copy, is simply to fill out our feedback form at the end of the session. One will pop up on your screen once we exit the GoToWebinar session today. So just fill that out, and we'll draw 1 winner from that list. I'd like to also invite you to our next complimentary Lunch and Learn webinar. Pierre from our organization has been working with Adrian Ott of Exponential Edge, and they've created a leadership survey report that is now complete, and they have the findings of this, and they're going to be sharing their findings from this report. And that again is November 3rd, same time, same place. And I'm also going to send you a handy registration link to this webinar in the chat panel. So that's coming to you now. You can go ahead and click that link and register at GoToWebinar. A few more resources available to you. I invite you to check out our Less is More blog at peopleonthego.com/blog. And please consider joining our Accomplishing More with Less groups on Facebook and LinkedIn. Once more, that's also where we're going to be posting the recording of today's session. You can find it there and share it, happily share it with all your colleagues. I invite you to also check out our Perfect 15-Minute Day Facebook page. That's Pierre's latest book on productivity. And you can also follow us on our LinkedIn page and Twitter and Pierre on Twitter at his handle at Pierre Kawand. A few upcoming webinars. We have Microsoft Office 365 Crash Course coming up next week on the 12th. We have our landmark productivity program, 3-part series, Accomplishing More with Less in early November. And then Google Docs and Drive coming up in late November. And many more, of course, are available on our website if you would like to check that out. All right, and now for our questions. Okay, real quick, it's saying the link is broken. I'm wondering if I sent the right one. I'm assuming that's for talentandgenius.com/compassion. Maybe I entered it incorrectly. The URL again for that one, Nancy, was it just talentandgenius.com/compassion?
It should be, yeah, that
Okay, maybe I entered it incorrectly. Let me try that again, or let me see if that's the one everyone's referring to. Okay.
oh my goodness, it is. I don't know what's going on. All right, I will fix that. Make sure that that is corrected, and I will fix that in just 1 second, and then everybody can get it. I apologize for that.
Oh, no worries, no worries. Yeah, we'll be on the lookout for that. Thank you. Thank you all for letting us know. So, Nancy, I have a question here for you. In terms of encouraging a compassionate culture in the workplace, sometimes we, come up against, certain team members or employees where, they just don't want to kind of change in this direction, or maybe there's some resistance, or what are some ways that you would encourage this type of compassionate environment to kind of proliferate in the workplace? If you yeah.
Yeah, it's so hard to change other people. And so the first thing, I mean, in just in all reality, don't we wish we could just wave a magic wand or hand somebody some kind of a memo and say, you must change and this is how we want you to be? And it doesn't always happen that way in the world. So the first thing that we have to do is, like anything, we have to start on ourselves. Start on ourselves, because oftentimes what happens is that when you work on yourself, the people who used to be incredibly annoying suddenly become a little bit less annoying because you have a different level of understanding. The other part that you could do is to bring in resources
Mhm.
that can provide training and coaching for people to develop this. I think the worst thing that you can do is single somebody out and say, you know what, you're not compassionate. You're a pain in the butt. You need to change. That builds up a wall of resistance. So you have to really look at this from a place of change that is really on a personal level. It's not like we're going to buy new office furniture today. It's about we need to make a change from the inside out, and that's a little trickier. But once you do it, it pays off for everybody. And by the way, I think that link should work now.
Okay, great. If you guys want to check that one again, that would be awesome. And Nancy, are there any, programs that you've seen implemented or that you've implemented, helped to implement yourself in organizations, or even different exercises on a consistent basis that teams can do to, again, cultivate this type of environment, this type of culture?
Yes, definitely. I mean, if anybody wants any information, you can contact me directly. I could talk about some of the work that I do with individuals and with teams around this. It really depends on your organization and who you are and what it is that you're looking for, whether it's something that's a more ongoing connection where people can work on something and, let's say, have we're going to take a class that's 90 days. We're going to focus on this for 6 months and everybody's on board,
Mhm.
or for individuals, or even for a day. So there are lots of different things. I really love the Greater Good Science Center based out of UC Berkeley as a place for information and rationale. So if this is something that you want to bring up to your CEO or to a decision maker in your organization, go to their website and start looking up some of the articles, because they're wonderful justification on why this is important and why now.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Nancy. And by the way, it sounds like the link is working, so thank you all for your confirmations. We're at time now, and I'll just wait a few more moments to see if any other burning questions come in here. And once more, here is Nancy's contact information if you'd like to be in touch and learn more. Well, thank you again, Nancy, so much for your presentation today, and thank you all for joining us. I look forward to having you at a future event. And again, please be on the lookout for our post-webinar email. I'll send you information on how to access the recording and other details. Thank you all again, and have a wonderful rest of your day.